Hello, I'm Jeremy and I'm here at the TRQ Research and Development Facility today where we test all of our parts on a fleet of vehicles to make sure that they are the quality that you need. And now, we're going to help you fix yours.
To access the removal points, there is a trim panel right here, and there is a one further down right here. We're going to go ahead and start by using a trim panel removal tool. I'm going to access that right in this lower corner right here. This one here can be a little bit of a bugger to get to. And you can pop it off just like that. I'm going to go ahead and access the lower panel, like so. This upper screw is a 7mm. We'll go ahead and use our ratchet and extension here to go ahead and remove that. The two lower screws are 8mm. I'm going to go ahead and remove these here and set them aside with that 7mm. The next step is, I want to go ahead and pull this door panel off. And you can use a pry tool, something similar to this here. Get underneath the edge, and you're going to want to pry out. Work your way around the trim. You're going to hear those plastic pins popping out and releasing. Follow both sides of the door until you can actually get that door to be loose. Coming up to the top, press your door lock button down inside. Reach around both sides of the door panel, pull away gently, and then straight up. So we're going to go ahead and grab this cable here and pull away, and it should pop out. So gently swing aside, and you can remove the cable with the ball end on there. The next component we want to remove is this bulkhead electrical connector. We're going to do so by grabbing this handle and gently pulling away. Once that's released, the bulkhead connector will come out. Underneath this little flap right here will be the connector for your power door lock. So what you want to do is grab a pry tool, and maybe a screwdriver might work out for you, and just gently insert on each side. You want to release the locking mechanism so you can go ahead and pull that switch right out of the door. This can prove to be a little challenging. A little bit of work, you can get that removed. Disconnect the slide cable right here, a little retaining clip. Okay, we're going to go ahead and remove this inner door shield. It does have a seal on there. You want to use a blade of some sort, and you want to cut that as close as possible because we're going to be reinstalling this panel. Just follow this around the entire perimeter of this unit here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and remove this and set this aside. We do recommend setting it with the sticky side up so it doesn't stick to whatever you put it on. So we're going to go ahead and show you how to remove and replace a power window regulator. First step we want to do is, number one, make sure that the window is in its upward position, and we're going to go ahead and use tape to hold that glass in position. Simply wrap the tape around. You want to do this in a couple different positions. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at the bolts that we need to loosen and or remove. I'm going to start with this one here, and straight down below here we have this one here. These two bolts are going to hold this track in place. Over to the right side we have another bolt right here, and a bolt down underneath the speaker. There's another glass track right here that holds this guide in place. We have these three bolts right here in this triangular pattern that hold the motor and the bracketry in place. There's two more. There is one right inside this hole here, and there's one more right here. The purpose of these two here, these are the clamping units that support and hold that glass, so when this regulator goes up and down, that holds the glass and lifts and lowers it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and loosen the clamps here on the left and right hand side using a 10mm socket. You don't have to remove them. All you have to do is loosen it, because that is just opening up the clamp and releasing pressure on the glass. Once we get these three out, we'll go ahead and take care of the bolts on the guides themselves, or the tracks. All right, the two bottom bolts on these guides, we're going to go ahead and remove these completely. I did leave this bolt here in the bracket. I just loosened it, and I did remove these two here. That's going to allow me on the reinstallation that I can go ahead and feed this bracket up through and just hang it on that bolt. I'm going to go ahead and remove these bolts here. And I'm reaching up on the inside of the door just to make sure that we have proper support for that glass. Because once you unbolt these guides, you don't want that glass to drop down inside the door. That's why we use that tape. Do the same over here. Reach up on the inside. Go. Now, sometimes you got to be a little bit of a contortionist to work on this here. The next thing we want to do, and you can do this earlier or at this point here, the connector for your power window motor. There's a tab on here. You just want to squeeze that and pull that connector off. We're also going to go ahead and remove this harness right here. I'm going to start by manipulating the lower end out here. Pull out this bracket. And work the regulator out this way here. Now we have the regulator removed. Let's take a look at these clamping units right here. This is where your glass actually fits into. It's a simple rubber insulated component that clamps that glass. When we reinstall this, we want to make sure we don't tighten this too much. You can actually crack the glass by applying too much pressure. We're going to go ahead and reinstall this power window regulator. We're going to start by installing the right side guide first. Slide that into place. I'm going to go ahead and slide in the other side bracket or guide. At the same time, work in the window motor itself. Don't forget to pull out your door handle cable right here that wants to remain on the outside. You remember that one bolt that we had here on the bracket? I'm going to go ahead, line that up, and that'll hold it in place for you. You're going to reach back in. You want to line up the right side track, the glass clamp. Make sure that you have that clamp lined up on that. I'm going to go ahead and line up the upper bracket bolt. That's going to hold that guide in place. Just catch that bolt a couple threads, and then we're going to head back down to the bottom here to see if we have a little bit of room to work. Go ahead and slide that bracket over. You can see the hole there. We just have to manipulate that guide a little bit to get that up into place. Once you have it, you can go ahead and thread the bolt in and snug that up. At this point here, you can go ahead and snug that down right there. Then we're going to go up top and tighten this one right here. Over to the left-hand side. You want to reach up inside and get that guide onto the glass. Go ahead and get that hole lined up there and start one of your bolts. Okay, line up the bottom bolt here. I'm just going to pull up a little bit more on that regulator. You can go ahead and snug up the bottom bolt, move up to the top, and tighten this one into place. I'm going to move down to the lower bracket for the motor itself. Grab the last two loose bolts you have and get these started by hand. Go ahead and snug up these 3 bolts. Using the original factory markings where the bolts were tightened before, you can make sure that this is lined up perfectly. I'm going to go ahead and reconnect your power window motor harness. Pops into place. You can go ahead and reinstall that little connector right there. The last thing you want to do is go back up top and snug these 2 10mm glass clamps. Now, if you don't do this here and you go to operate this window regulator, well, you're going to run into an issue. That glass could collapse down inside the door and shatter on you. So make sure that you follow up with these here. It's always good to double check. Once you snug this side here, come back, double check this one here, and back to the other side for your final tightening. And that will complete your window regulator installation. Now that we have the regulator installed, I'm going to go ahead and pull this tape. We do recommend before you install everything for its final step, simply grab the door panel. You're going to want to go ahead and hook up that connector and test this before you reassemble all of the components. So I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the door panel shield. Don't forget to pull your door cable for your door release handle out through that hole. Now that that's installed, let's grab the door panel. All right, we're going to go ahead and grab our power door lock switch. Make sure when you go to install this, it's going to fit the right way. You don't want to have anything reversed. Simply line that up. You should hear a click, like so. This little retainer tab here, I'm going to go ahead and snap that back into place where we originally found it. You can bring that flat back down, grab your bulkhead connector, line that up, put it into place, and bring that bulkhead retainer back in. Now that we have the bulkhead connector hooked up, we're going to go ahead and reattach the door handle. Going to do so by installing the ball end into the back side of the handle. Pull the cable around, line that up, and snap it in. I like to pull up on the door lock itself, make sure it's in its up position. It helps me as a guide when I'm going to put this on. Once that lined up, you want to make sure that all your gaps are proper here, and go ahead and start pressing your door clips on. What we're doing right now is resetting all of the door panel pins in the door panel surround. Reinstalling, putting the 7mm screw up in the top. You can go ahead and snug that right up. Next, we're going to move to the 8mm screws on the bottom. Your final steps for installing the door panel would be to place your trim bezel, your bolt caps into place, and snap them in. Take care of the upper one here. And that completes your window regulator installation.